Hey everybody, it's Dave Stevens here with Stevens Group Training, and welcome to the Overcoming Perfectionism webinar. Just stand by a second while I get us started here. Okay, hopefully you all can see that screen. Anyway, welcome to the webinar, Overcoming Perfectionism. If we've not yet met, my name is Dave Stevens, and I've known many people who consider themselves perfectionists. And I'm happy to report there is light at the end of the tunnel. Gladly, I consider myself a perfectionist for many, many years. And so to find out these techniques and tips to be able to overcome perfectionism really changed my life around. And I hope it'll do the same for you tonight. I'm motivated to help you achieve a more healthy set of standards and explore a new mindset. And if you have any questions during our time together, please feel free to post them and I will do my best to respond to them quickly. Perfectionism can be really difficult to define. The pursuit of perfectionism in itself isn't necessarily a bad thing. However, there is a dark side involving self-defeating thoughts or behaviors. While being perfect is often associated with a positive trait, Brene Brown, a professor at the University of Houston Graduate College of Social Work, says, perfectionism is not the same thing as striving to be your best. Perfection is not about healthy achievement and growth. Most people strive for perfection from time to time in certain areas of their life. However, to be considered a perfectionist, there are a number of other qualities often associated with one's attempt to be perfect. Some examples of perfectionism might include spending 30 minutes writing and rewriting a two-sentence email, believing that missing 2 points on a test is a sign of failure, difficulty being happy for others who are successful, holding oneself to the standards of others' accomplishments, or comparing oneself unfavorably and unrealistically to others. Focusing on the end product rather than the process of learning. And also believing that anything less than a perfect or ideal outcome is not worth achieving. Perfectionism is considered to be a personality disposition in terms of psychology. Extremely high performance standards and a compulsion to strive for flawlessness are common among perfectionists. Now, when these behaviors are exaggerated, perfection can become destructive. To set unattainable or unrealistic goals, the only possible outcome is failure, leading to low self-esteem and possibly even depression. According to Psychology Today, there are 3 types of perfectionism. 1, self-oriented. This type of perfectionist is driven by the need to avoid personal failure by setting rigid standards for themselves. 2, other-oriented. This type of perfectionist is overly judgmental and critical of others setting unrealistic expectations on their spouses, children, friends, and coworkers. And 3, socially prescribed. Now, this type of perfectionist believes they can never measure up to the high standards set for them by others. Perfectionists are synonymous with a number of specific traits, some positive, some negative. The positive traits would include being reliable and responsible. They're also dedicated and driven. And a lot of them are also very persistent. On the negative traits list is that they are critical and unrealistic, and they seek approval all the time. They're also prone to depression, and a lot of times they are very anxious. The problem with perfectionism is feeling like one never measures up, that you're never good enough. The ideals that perfectionists hold themselves to do not match the reality of what is truly possible. Perfectionism is truly an issue when various aspects of life become consumed. Many perfectionists develop crippling fears, which lead to the refusal even to try anything, simply because the fear of failure is so great. And that is exactly where I fell for many, many years, is refusing to try something because I did not want to fail. Whether it be their struggle with acceptance leading to failure, or the fear of failure itself, perfectionists get stuck in a vicious circle of failure, lowered self-esteem, depression, and feelings of despair. Now, what causes perfectionism? There are various factors contributing to the development of perfectionism. However, perfection often stems from childhood as a learned behavior. Perfectionism may be encouraged in children by parents driving a child too hard to succeed and expressing disapproval when their children's efforts do not result in perfection. Additionally, children of parents who are perfectionistic are more likely to become perfectionists themselves. And I've seen this coming about in our daughter. My wife was not a perfectionist, but I was. And I see those feelings of perfectionism manifesting themselves in our daughter. And so I've worked with her on getting better with that, and she has done much better with that in her life. The feelings of overwhelming pressure to live up to achievements can also lead to a perfectionist behavior. Overpraise for accomplishments may also lead to feelings of pressure to continue achieving, which usually leads to perfectionism. Now, research increasingly shows that perfection is highly correlated with anxiety, depression, and stress. Because of the nature of perfectionists, they are less likely to share their pain with others, as doing so would mean their appearance as less than perfect. As I stated earlier, anxiety and depression can be serious conditions that result from perfectionism. These conditions need some form of treatment. When untreated, other conditions can develop, including relationship issues, eating disorders, obsessive compulsive disorder, or OCD, as everybody knows it. Now, OCD perfectionism, in some cases of unhealthy perfectionism, obsessive compulsive disorder can be linked when there's a strong need for things to be done just right. In these cases, it's a common belief that if the compulsion is carried out perfectly, a feared outcome will not take place. OCD perfectionism may perpetuate and reinforce obsessions as well. We all exhibit a certain amount of perfectionism. However, as we've just seen, Perfectionist behaviors also have a dark side if you're a moderate perfectionist. Watch out for the following signs which can increase and bring you to a harmful level. You know your drive to perfection is hurting you, but you consider it the price you pay for success. Number 2, you're a full-time procrastinator. Raise my hand for that one. You tend to be highly critical of other people. You do things in the extreme, or you struggle with purely black and white thinking. You have a hard time opening up to other people. You take everything personally. You are overly defensive when criticized, and you're never quite there yet. Now that we have a better understanding of perfectionism, let's take a look at the strategies for reducing the negative traits associated with being a perfectionist. To start, let's review some common negative consequences associated with perfectionism we want to prevent or change. Perfectionism can reduce overall well-being by causing you to worry about tiny mistakes and creating unnecessary stress. Perfectionism can negatively impact behavior by creating defensiveness in response to suggestions from others. Perfectionism can lead to procrastination as the right moment or the right conditions are needed to start a project. Perfectionism can create an all or nothing mindset, paralyzing progress of a project or a task. Perfectionism can lead to the development of self-loathing by reinforcing the belief of not being good enough. Perfectionism can exasperate a fear of failure and make it appear larger than it really is. Perfectionism can lead to being overly judgmental and critical of others. And perfectionism can hold one back from actually excelling. It's important to remember having high standards is okay, but when these standards impact the enjoyment of life, it's time to consider a change. Here are a few questions you can answer to help you figure out if your high standards are a problem. 1, do you have trouble meeting your own standards? 2, do you often feel frustrated, depressed, anxious, or angry when trying to meet standards? Have you been told your standards are too high? And 4, do your standards get in the way of meeting deadlines or trusting others to help? Answering yes to any of these questions is a good indication that your perfectionism may be a problem. Let's review available tools to help you overcome this. There are various strategies and techniques to help perfectionists avoid pitfalls and learn to find enjoyment in life. The three main areas of change we will focus on are: 1, changing perfectionistic thinking; 2, changing perfectionistic behaviors; and 3, overcoming procrastination. Perfectionists are often plagued with overly self-critical thoughts. This can also cause perfectionists to have a difficult time seeing things from others' point of view. Additionally, perfectionists get bogged down with the details which overshadow the big picture. Here are some tools to help you achieve a more positive way of thinking. Your thinking needs to be more realistic instead of idealistic. Practice repeating the following affirmative statements. Use these affirmations daily if you can. Nobody is perfect. All I can do is my best. Making a mistake does not mean I'm inadequate or a failure. And everyone makes mistakes. To help you take a different perspective and see things from someone else's point of view, practice asking yourself the following questions. How might someone else view this situation? Are there other ways to look at this? What would be my advice to a friend having similar thoughts? The following questions can help keep the big picture in mind. What does it matter? What is the worst that could happen? If the worst does happen, can I survive it? And will this matter tomorrow, next week, or next year? Perfectionist behavior stems from the fear of making mistakes. Gradually and consistently facing fears is the best way to overcome these negative behaviors. As crazy as this sounds, I want you to make mistakes purposely. This will help you play with the feelings that come up. Also, try putting yourself in situations you usually avoid out of fear that things won't work out perfectly. Remember, the goal is to get out of your comfort zone in order to realize the end result isn't a catastrophe when things aren't perfect. Here are some other ideas to try out. Show up for an appointment 15 minutes late. Leave a visible area in your house a little messy. Tell people when you are tired or other feelings that you consider a weakness. Wear a piece of clothing that has a visible stain on it. Purposely allow several uncomfortable silences to occur during lunch with a coworker. Send an email that includes a few mistakes. Talk at a meeting without first rehearsing what you are going to say in your head. Try a new restaurant without first researching how good it is. It will take time and practice before making mistakes feel comfortable. But be consistent and remember, having anxiety will be normal. Once you become less rigid, you will feel less anxious over making mistakes. Procrastination is often accompanied by perfectionism because in the perfectionist's mind, you can't complete everything perfectly. If you can't complete everything perfectly, it's difficult even to get started. Unfortunately, procrastination tends to make situations worse and increases anxiety. Here are some ways to help you overcome procrastination. Create a realistic schedule. Try to break down a task into small, manageable steps. It's like that old saying, eat an elephant one bite at a time. Set a goal for each step and reward yourself for achieving each goal along the way. Keep in mind, the goal is to complete the task, not to make it perfect. Okay, so it's the journey, not the end result, that it's important. Number 2, set priorities. Perfectionists can struggle with deciding what they should devote energy and effort into. Prioritize tasks by deciding which are most important to accomplish. And remember, it's okay not to give 100% on every task. Number 3, ask for help. Everyone needs help at one time or another. There's no shame in admitting you are in over your head or simply struggling with one step of a task. This area is one that I inherited because my dad never asked for help from anyone. And I inherited that as well. And it took me a long time to be able to ask people for help. And now it comes as second nature to me. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBD, is a form of behavioral treatment that helps people problem solve. In this case, perfectionistic behaviors are the problem. CBT can help you see the relationship between beliefs, thoughts, and feelings and their subsequent behavior patterns and actions. The process of CBT works by understanding it is a person's perception of events rather than the events themselves that determine how he or she will feel and act. Let me repeat that. Understanding your perception of events rather than the events themselves determine how you will feel and act. Someone with anxiety often perceives negative outcomes, which is only strengthened when something bad does happen. The negative thoughts will influence outcomes negatively as well. Cognitive behavioral therapists believe that adjusting thoughts can directly influence emotions and thus behavior. And I can attest to that 100%. Your thoughts control your actions, your emotions, and your behavior. The process of CBT is based on an educational model used to help people unlearn negative reactions and learn new positive emotional and behavioral reactions to challenging situations that they encounter. In order for a CBT session to be productive, both the individual and the therapist must be active participants. Treatment is focused on the goals of each session, rather than just sitting and talking about whatever comes to mind. There are a number of tools utilized by CBT to help people in therapy evaluate their emotional patterns and states. Techniques commonly include journaling, challenging beliefs, being mindful, or mindfulness as they call it, relaxation, and social, physical, and thinking exercises to make a person aware of his or her emotional and behavioral patterns. CBT is perfect for addressing perfectionistic behaviors, especially when dealing with anxiety or compulsion disorders associated with perfectionism. One of the more debilitating aspects of perfectionism is the constant need to judge. The judgment of self, others, and every tiny detail. Mindfulness is a practice dedicated to awareness of the present moment without judgment. Letting go of judgment may be the key to letting go of perfectionism. Mindful breathing techniques can be helpful in getting you started. Try this 5-minute mindful breathing exercise. From a comfortable seated position, close your eyes and bring your attention to the present moment by noticing how you're feeling physically. Bring your attention to your breath. Notice the sensation of your breath going in and out of your nostrils. As you breathe, pay attention to the rise and fall of your chest. Notice the rise and fall of your belly as well. Each time your mind wanders away from the breath, and this will happen many times, notice where it goes, and then gently bring your attention back to the feeling of the breath going in and out. I would suggest to start practicing mindful breathing just 5 minutes a day and work your way up to 20-minute sessions. I would suggest to you to, if you need additional guidance with this, or you need to remember these steps, to rewatch the webinar, to review it, if you need be. In addition to reducing perfectionistic tendencies, there are numerous documented benefits of regularly practicing mindfulness. These benefits include reducing stress. Mindfulness produces less avoidance and improves emotional regulation, leading to a better mood and better ability to handle stress. It also reduces depressive symptoms. Mindfulness has been found to decrease depressive symptoms such as anxiety and stress, as well as increasing self-compassion, how you love yourself. Mindfulness also enhances healthy behaviors. With consistent practice, mindfulness can actually alter functions of the brain. Negative thinking and behaviors are the core of perfectionism. Actively working to rewire the brain's negativity for more positive outlooks can be done through the regular practice of mindfulness. Here are a few of my favorite quotes that I think you may enjoy. You're imperfect and you're wired for struggle, but you are worthy of love and belonging. Brene Brown. When you realize nothing is lacking, the whole world belongs to you. Liao Cha. In today's rush, we all think too much, seek too much, want too much, and forget about the joy of just being. From Eckhart Tolle. Suffering usually relates to wanting things to be different than they are. Alan Locos. Do every act of your life as though it were the last act of your life. Marcus Aurelius. Jot down your own favorite and place it somewhere that you get to look at every day. We've discussed a ton of information today. Here's a quick summary of steps to take in order to overcome perfectionism. Ditch the negative self-talk. Practice making mistakes. Break up tasks into small and manageable steps and set realistic expectations so you avoid procrastination. Prioritize important projects. Keep in mind the big picture instead of getting bogged down by the details. Don't compare yourself to others. And practice living in the moment. On the next screen are some resources used to assemble this class. Should you want to investigate these sources, please rewatch the webinar and you can pause when it gets to the next screen. I'm going to leave these up for just a few seconds here so that somebody can find it easily and then also be able to write them down if they should so choose to do. I want to thank you for taking the time to be on the webinar with me tonight, and I hope that you benefited tremendously from it. These tips and techniques have helped me make some minor and major changes in the way I do things. I love helping people achieve their goals and learn how to be the best version of themselves. I wish you all the very best on your journey towards letting go.